You know that feeling, like you're on a self-improvement hamster wheel. You're doing all the things, meditating, journaling, trying so hard to heal, but you still feel kind of stuck? Well, today, we're going to dive into a pretty radical idea. What if the very effort you're making to transform is actually the trap? Seriously, just take a second and think about this. Has it ever felt like that for you? Where you're watching every single thought, judging every emotion, trying so hard to be this peaceful, healed person that you just wind up completely exhausted? If you're nodding along right now, you are definitely in the right place. In that feeling, that exhaustion, that's actually the key. It leads us right into our first big idea here, the paradox of fixing you. And trust me, it's a counterintuitive concept that might just flip the way you see your whole inner journey on its head. Okay, so here's the crazy part, right? The more you try to force yourself to feel peaceful, the more agitated you actually get. The more you scan your own mind for negative thoughts, the more you judge yourself for even having them. It becomes this vicious cycle where the very attempt to get better just reinforces this deep down feeling that something is fundamentally wrong with you. It's a total trap. So what is really going on inside our heads when we get caught in this loop? To get a handle on it, we need a new metaphor. Stop thinking of your mind as a safe harbor and start picturing it as a courtroom. This is the powerful idea we're going to unpack next, your inner courtroom. Just let that sink in for a moment. Your inner world isn't a cozy home, it's a courtroom. And guess who's playing all the parts? You are. You're the prosecutor, pointing out every single flaw. And you're also the defendant, constantly on trial, trying to justify your own existence. Every insecure thought, every flash of anger just becomes Exhibit A in a case that never, ever rests. So what happens when you find these parts of yourself guilty? Your anger, your sadness, your insecurity. You sentence them to exile. But here's the thing, they don't just vanish. Nope, they just go underground. They get buried alive, basically gathering strength, waiting to pop back up later, and usually with way more force. So how do we break this cycle? How do we stop putting ourselves on trial? The brilliant psychoanalyst Carl Jung totally nailed this. He basically said that condemnation is not the way to freedom. Real change doesn't start when we fight ourselves. It starts the moment we can finally look at some part of ourselves, acknowledge it, and just be aware of it without contempt. All right, so we're exiling all these parts of ourselves, but where do they go? Well, that brings us to our next really interesting idea, the social self's basement. We've all got a social self. You know what I'm talking about? It's the polished, acceptable, I'm healed version of us we show to the world. But everything that doesn't fit that shiny picture, the pain, the anger, what we might call our savage parts, all of that gets shoved down into a metaphorical basement. Out of sight, maybe, but definitely not gone. Now this is a huge shift in perspective. Because when that anger or sadness starts to bubble up from the basement, our first instinct is to think, oh no, I'm relapsing, I'm failing. But what if it's not a failure at all? What if it's just a message? A part of you that's been locked away for way too long, just knocking on the door, asking to be seen. And I just love this quote because it's all about radical integration. It's not about choosing the lamb and killing the wolf. It's about recognizing that your savage parts, your anger, your passion, your intensity, they hold immense energy and truth. Acknowledging the wolf doesn't mean you let it run wild. It just means understanding that both the wolf and the lamb are essential. They both belong in your inner landscape. Okay, so we've talked about the what. We're judging ourselves and hiding parts away. Now let's get to the why. What is the fundamental belief that's keeping this whole cycle running? That brings us to the mirror and the root. Imagine your life as a tree. Most self-help tells us to fix the branches. Our relationships, our jobs, our habits, but that's just treating the symptoms, the effects. The real problem, the actual cause, is way down at the root. It's the core belief we have about ourselves. And for so many of us, that belief is simply, I am broken. And this right here is the heart of it all. Your life is a mirror. If you stand in front of that mirror with the core belief, I need to be fixed, the mirror has no choice but to reflect back a reality that's filled with problems that need fixing. It can't show you a whole person if you don't believe you already are one. The mirror only reflects, it never leads. So, if our life is a mirror reflecting what's inside, how on earth do we change that reflection? How do we stop fixing and start reconciling? Okay, it's time to move from theory to practice with some really powerful tools for reconciliation. This is about finally shifting from that internal war to internal peace. Here are 3 simple but profound practices to get you started. First, stillness. This is about observing your thoughts, maybe for 30 minutes a day, without getting all tangled up in them. Imagine you are the vast open sky, and your thoughts are just clouds passing by. You're the sky, not the clouds. You just notice them. Second, synchronization. This one is really cool. When you feel stuck in a negative thought loop, try a simple cross-body movement, like tapping your left knee with your right hand, then your right knee with your left. This simple action helps integrate the 2 hemispheres of your brain and can literally break that pattern of self-judgment. And third, the backward review. At the end of the day, mentally retrace your steps in reverse. This isn't about judging what you did, it's about spotting the little synchronicities and moments of grace you might have missed when you were too busy trying to control the outcome. Now, I gotta be real with you. This kind of deep transformation isn't always comfortable. It is not a spa day. It can feel disorienting, even a little awkward. But that feeling, that's been called the dizziness of freedom. It's that shaky, unfamiliar ground you stand on when you're no longer defined by the fight. When that old story of being broken finally just falls away. It's raw, it's vulnerable, and it's an incredibly powerful feeling of becoming whole. And I love this quote from Rumi because it just perfectly captures the destination of this whole journey. True healing isn't found in the courtroom of right and wrong, good and bad. It's found out in a field of acceptance, a place that's beyond all that judgment, where every single part of you is finally welcome home. So I'll leave you with this final thought. We've spent so much time and energy fighting an internal war, trying so desperately to win a battle against ourselves. But what if you were never meant to be a soldier in the first place? What if the war ends the exact moment you lay down your weapons and just choose